Have you ever wondered why your self-confidence disappears precisely at times when you need it? Why that security you feel alone at home completely disintegrates when you go out to the world? And why, even when you can pretend confidence in front of others, do you feel completely lost when you are alone with yourself? If you have already asked yourself these questions, then you are ready to find out something that will completely change your relationship with trust. Because what I will share with you today is no longer those superficial pretend to or think positive techniques. We are talking about something much deeper, something the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson has discovered over 150 years ago and can turn his life from the inside out. Prepare yourself, because the next few minutes can be the most important of your self-knowledge journey. The first truth that needs to be said is brutally simple. You don't have a problem of self-confidence. You have a dependence problem. Dependence on the approval of others, dependence on external validation, dependence that the world around you confirm that you are on the right track, and this dependence is slowly killing your soul. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the greatest American thinkers of the 19th century, realized this when he wrote his revolutionary essay on self-confidence. He was not talking about self-help techniques or psychological tricks. He was talking about a completely different way from existing in the world. A way where you trust does not depend on any external source, but it springs naturally from within you, as a source that never dries. But to get to this point, you need to be willing to confront some uncomfortable truths about how it has lived so far. You need to be willing to question everything you have learned about what it means to be confident. Because, as Emerson has discovered, true self-confidence is not something you conquer or build. It is something you find out within you, always, waiting to be released. The real cause of suffering is not lack of self-confidence. It is the deeply rooted belief that you need the approval of others to feel valid. Think to me, how many times today you checked how others were reacting to what you said or did? How many times have you changed your opinion, your behavior, or even your posture because you realized that someone was watching you? Emerson called this terror for contradiction, this paralyzing fear of being different, of thinking differently, of acting differently. And this terror is at the root of all insecurity you feel. The problem is not that you have no confidence. The problem is that you have given your trust to other people to take care. You outsourced your self-esteem. And now it lives in the constant anxiety that these people can remove their approval at any time. It's as if you have given the keys to your emotional home to strangers and now lives for fear of being dumped. Emerson realized that this is the great dilemma of the human condition. We are born with a powerful and clear inner voice, but society teaches us to doubt it, to silence it, to exchange our natural intuition for the apparent security of conformism. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Here is something that will shock you. Your conscious mind, the one you think controls everything, represents just a tiny fraction of your experience. The true source of your trust, or your insecurity, is operating at a much deeper level in your unconscious. Emerson intuited this long before modern psychology. He realized that there is an inner wisdom, a natural intelligence that works below the radar of our analytical mind. He called it inner genius, not in the sense of being smarter than others, but in the sense of accessing a source of knowledge that is independent of external opinion. Think of moments of your life when you knew something, unable to explain how you knew. Moments when your intuition guided you to the right decision, even when all logic said the opposite. These moments were not coincidental. They were their true nature manifesting, their original self, confidence trying to emerge through the social conditioning layers. But here is the problem. You were taught to suspect this inner voice. It has been taught that wisdom comes from books, experts, from others, never from within you. And so, gradually, you were disconnecting from the only source of trust that really matters, yourself. The first habit that Emerson practiced religiously was to hear his inner voice, especially when she contradicted the crowd. He called it sacred nonconformity. It's not about being rebellious for being rebellious, but having the courage to trust what you know to be true, even when no one else seems to agree. Imagine what your life would be like if you stopped looking for external confirmation for every decision you make. If you stopped checking what others think before expressing your opinion. If you trusted so much in your inner perception that it became your emotional GPS, always guiding you in the right direction. Emerson did this consciously. He regularly isolated himself from public opinion, created moments of silence where he could hear his own thoughts without external interference. and it was from this practice that its most revolutionary insights were born. But let's go deeper, because what I'm about to share will challenge everything you think about confidence and courage. The most difficult truth to accept is that you are living a lie, not a conscious lie, but a lie that was planted so deeply in your psyche that you don't even notice anymore. The lie is this, that your safety and happiness depend on what others think of you. Emerson dedicated much of his life to deconstruct this illusion. He realized that when we live for the approval of others, we are not really living, we are representing. We are playing a character that we think people will like, and completely losing contact with who we really are. And here is something that will scare you. You do it so many times a day that you don't even notice anymore. You change your tone of voice depending on who you are talking to. You laugh at jokes that don't find it funny. You agree with opinions that are not yours. You wear clothes that do not reflect your real taste. All this in the hope of being accepted, of being approved, of being loved. But Emerson had a devastating question for people like us. What is worth more, be loved by who you want to be, or being respected by who you really are? The second habit he developed was to systematically question all traditions and social expectations, not for rebellion, but for the sake of the truth. He constantly wondered, I'm doing this because I believe it's right, or why everyone expects me to do. The real solution is not trying to be more confident. The solution is to stop trying. Emerson has discovered something revolutionary. Self-confidence is not something you build, it's something you free. It is as if you were born with a treasure buried in your backyard, but spent a lifetime looking for treasures in the backyards of others. Its true nature is already confident. Its true nature is already wise. Its true nature is already complete. The problem is that this nature is buried under layers and layers of social conditioning, expectations of others, and fear of rejection. Emerson called this liberation self-reliance, dependence on himself. But make no mistake, this is not selfishness or arrogance. In fact, it is exactly the opposite. When you stop depending on others to feel good about yourself, you can finally relate to them genuine. You stop using people as a source of validation and can love them for what they really are. But here is the part that no one tells you. This journey is not comfortable. In fact, at first, it is terribly uncomfortable. Because it means giving up all your security strategies, all your defense mechanisms, all your emotional crutches. Emerson's third habit was to accept his authentic impulses without external judgment. He said, nothing can bring peace except yourself. Nothing can bring peace except the triumph of principles. And what were these principles? Simple. Trust the wisdom that already exists within you. But that means being willing to be misunderstood. It means being willing to be criticized. It means being willing to walk alone when necessary. Emerson knew that the price of authenticity is high, but the price of inventicity is even higher. It is its own soul. And here is something that will mess with you. How many times have you betrayed yourself to please others? How many times have you silenced your inner voice to maintain peace? How many times have you swallowed your truths not to disturb anyone? Each time you did this, you were not just being polite or diplomatic. You were teaching your unconscious that your opinion doesn't matter, that your feelings are not valid, that you cannot trust yourself. And his unconscious learned the lesson. That's why today, when you need your trust most, it is not there, because you taught you to hide yourself. The fourth habit was something that Emerson practiced daily, conscious nonconformity in small everyday choices. I'm not talking about scandal or drawing attention. I'm talking about small acts of integrity that no one but you realized. Choose what you really like to eat, even if it's different from what others are eating. Express a genuine opinion in a conversation, even if it goes against the chain. Wearing what makes you feel yourself, even if it's not fashionable. These small acts of authenticity are like exercises for their self-confidence. Each time you choose to be true to yourself in a small situation, you are strengthening your ability to be faithful to yourself in large situations. Emerson realized that integrity is not something you turn on and off, depending on the importance of the situation. Integrity is a muscle that needs to be constantly exercised in the little things, to be strong when you need it in great things. If you feel that you are constantly seeking approval from others, that your self-esteem oscillates depending on how people react to you, or that you feel lost when you need to make important decisions alone, write here in the comments, Emerson. Let's create a community of people who are willing to rediscover their true nature and stop living to the audience. But prepared for the hardest part of this journey, the pain. Because finding out who you really are inevitably involves confronting who you are not, and it hurts. It hurts to see how old you lost, trying to be someone who wasn't. It hurts to recognize how many opportunities you have been afraid of the judgment of others. It hurts to admit that you have given your personal power to people who don't really care about you. Emerson knew that. He knew that the path of authentic self-confidence necessarily goes through a valley of tears. He wrote, "Man must make his own luck, and the main part of his luck is in the disposition of his mind. But making your own luck means taking full responsibility for your emotional life. It means to stop blaming others for how you feel. It means to stop waiting for the world to change so that you can be happy. It means looking in the mirror and recognizing that the person there is the only one who can free you from the arrest of insecurity. And this is terrifying and liberating at the same time." Emerson's fifth and last habit was to cultivate moments of productive loneliness, regular time with himself, without distractions, without entertainment, without the company of others. He knew it is impossible to hear your inner voice if you are constantly surrounded by the outer noise. In our time of constant notifications, social networks, and infinite entertainment, this practice has become almost revolutionary. But that is precisely why it is so necessary. Emerson spent hours walking alone in nature, not to exercise, but to find himself. He used this time to question his own motivations, to examine his fears, to connect with that inner source of wisdom that society teaches us to ignore. And it was in these moments of loneliness that he developed his deepest ideas about human nature, because it is only when we are alone with ourselves, without masks, without performance, without audience, that we discover who we really are under all expectations and conditioning. The journey to true self-confidence is not a journey of accumulation, it is a journey of subtraction. It is not about adding more techniques, more strategies, more knowledge to your life. It is about removing everything that is not genuinely yours. It's about discarding the opinions you adopted just to fit in. It's about abandoning the dreams that you chase just to impress others. It's about getting rid of the fears you carry just because everyone told you to be afraid. Emerson compared this process to sculpture. The artist does not add anything to the marble. He only removes everything that is not part of the work that already exists inside. Your true confidence already exists within you. She always existed. She is waiting to be discovered, not built. But discovering it requires courage to question everything you believe about yourself. It requires brutal honesty to recognize where you have lived in an inactive manner. It requires patience to allow your true nature to emerge in your own time. And it requires faith that you are much more than anyone, including yourself, never imagined. This is not a journey that ends. This is a completely new way to exist in the world. Emerson realized that authentic self-confidence is not a destination, it is a way to walk. It is waking up every day and choosing to trust your inner perception before looking for external confirmation. It is to develop such an intimate and respectful relationship with oneself that the opinion of others becomes interesting, but never determining. It is coming to a point where you no longer need to pretend to be confident, because you are simply not an arrogant confidence that needs to prove something, but a silent confidence that knows its own value. And when you get to this point, and you'll arrive, you'll notice something surprising. People won't respect you less because you are authentic. They will respect you more, because deep down, everyone recognizes the rarity and beauty of someone who has the courage to be genuine in a world full of performances. Everyone secretly admires those who have the strength to follow their own moral compass, even when it means walking alone sometimes. Consciousness becomes your final shield against all the world's attempts to make you doubt who you are. When you develop this deep awareness of your own nature, when you know your values, your motivations, your fears, and your real dreams, you become virtually immune to the emotional manipulation of others. Not because you're close to the world, but because you have clear criteria to assess what is worth absorbing and what should be rejected. Emerson said that conscious man is like a tree with deep roots. He can bear the wind, but he never breaks, because he is firmly planted in the ground of his own truth. And this is my promise to you. If you start today, right now, practicing these 5 habits of self-confidence that Emerson has developed, listening to your inner voice, questioning traditions, accepting your authentic impulses, practicing non-conformity in small things, and cultivating productive loneliness, your life will change irreversibly, not overnight, but gradually, deeply, permanently. you will find a version of yourself that you didn't even know it existed. A bolder, more authentic, more peaceful version, but infinitely more confident. Subscribe to the channel, save this video to review in the next 7 days, and share it with someone who is also on this journey of rediscovering your true nature. The transformation starts now. It started when you decided to watch this video until the end. Emerson would be proud.